Welcome to day 13 of CSI8 Certification. It's going to be GM reporting part 3. We're going to look at fuel pricing in CSI. Okay, so we have opened the default screen of the CSI fuel pricing. If you look to the left, you'll see there's a different slide bar. Yes, the red square around FBO cells means you have to click that slide bar and a whole new set of CSI modules will show, and you'll see that the interlink fuel pricing with the green shading over it is the icon to open the CSI fuel pricing screen. So let's talk about having access to this module. You will find that by default, all user accounts do not even see this module. There is a security setting. Yes, CSI has a pretty robust security tool built as a layer on top of the entire program. If you can imagine, every button and every request you make for data goes through a security layer before you're allowed to see anything. So that being said, if you go to this slide bar and interlink fuel pricing is not visible, then simply send me an email and I'll change your security settings in CSI to make it available to you. The navigation on this module is far easier than the other modules we've trained on. So we'll cover navigation while we're doing the training. The opening tab, the default tab for this module, says fuel pricing. So yes, this is the tab that we're going to stay on to enter a fuel price for an operator. The first list to the left, the header with the gold background, says charter company. The companies in that list are companies that are located in our sales operator analytics module, which we have not yet trained on. So one or more FBOs have seen the data in operator analytics, the sales volume data for one or more of these companies, and one or more FBOs have requested that they receive the ability to send this company an automatic pricing letter from CSI fuel pricing. That said, there are several companies here. It does not mean that your FBO is mandated, required to send a fuel price to every company. You get to look at this list, decide which of these companies are most important for your sales opportunities, and provide a price to the ones you desire to send a price to. That said, you also learn that very few of these companies get a price for more than 4 FBOs in our entire network. Yes, that's correct. So you think when you send a price that all of millionaires also participating, but in many cases, the only millionaires that are participating to send a price are the millionaires at locations where this operator frequents their airport. Okay, so if you look at the second list on this screen, the header says week of. And you'll notice below that header, there is no data. Houston is my default location. So what the screen is telling you is that Houston, FBO Houston, does not send pricing to the operator A2V. We're now going to select a different operator that Houston does send pricing to and demonstrate how this is done. So now you can see that we selected AirShare Corporation, and this is one of the many companies that Houston has decided to send an automated CSI fuel price to. You'll also look in the next column on week of, and you'll see that Houston is providing pricing to this company for many, many weeks in the past. Today is July 12th, 2022, and Houston has already entered their fuel pricing for today, Tuesday. And what you're seeing to the right of that list with the captions and the blue text with the values is exactly the pricing that Houston has itemized in the fuel pricing tool of CSI. That being said, you'll learn in a few minutes that the customer only receives the total price. These customers do not receive the breakdown of how these prices were attained. Yes, the fuel pricing module is one of the few data entry modules in CSI. Literally all the data in this module comes from users of CSI that choose to participate. What I've done is I've right mouse clicked on today's date, which is in the list, 12th of July 2022. I put my mouse over the word edit, and now we're going to click it to look at the edit screen. Okay, so this is the interlink fuel price edit screen for sending CSI pricing to any customer in this list. And yes, when you look at this screen, it looks very, very complex. But let's make it simple and let's understand the complexity. The request was to provide a tool, and I would actually call this, instead of a tool, a fuel price calculator that could be used by any FBO in the Millionaire Network. They actually have the ability, for example, to enter their FBO cost from supplier, and to the right of that number, which in Houston is 3.977, and to the right of that number, check that box. But you can't check the box to apply taxes unless you enter the tax in the box above it. So if you're going to go through all the complexity of saying our sales tax is this much, here's our fuel cost, yes, we do apply taxes to that cost. Here's our flowage fee, yes, we do apply taxes to our flowage fee. And so the idea is you're building your fuel price equation. That is a lot of work, but you'll see in a few minutes how CSI will inherit that work from one week to the next, so you don't have to re-enter it every week. But that being said, this whole effort could be far simpler. All you have to do is put in your total price to the customer in that FBO cost from fuel supplier. If your price, for example, Houston shows their total price is 5.043. If they would make every box 0 and put 5.043 right there, they would get the same total. And then down below, you could say current FBO retail and put your retail number there. And the total price and the FBO retail are the only two prices that we send the customer. Okay, so then what is the advantage of going through the effort like Houston has done here to include every penny that goes into the cost and the price provided to the customer? If you'll look at Houston's numbers, you'll see where it says other fees of 0.01. That's actually a penny. And you can even itemize what those fees are in the other fees description down below, but they haven't. But the point being is when they're all done, they can look at their cost, which includes the taxes, the FBO margin, the flowage fees. Everything is there, and you can look at your total price. And I can now look at this screen and see that with the total price of 5.043, it only includes a margin of 75 cents. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to close this screen. I'm going to go back to where I right mouse click and selected edit, but this time I'm going to select add. And what I want to show you is that CSI will go back to the last time you entered data for this operator and will copy everything that you entered into the new screen except for the FBO cost from supplier. Let's go take a look. Okay, so here's the add screen. I literally went to the 12th of July 2022, right mouse click, selected add, and if you'll notice, if you look at the screen, I stand corrected, it gives you an entire copy of the previous week's data, including the FBO cost from fuel supplier. But notice in the bottom right, it says in red letters, you're inserting a new record. Now look at the report start date. It has July 19th. This is being recorded on the 12th, so it's showing the report for the 7 days from now because it already sees a record for the 12th of July. If your last price would have been 2 years ago, you'd get 7 days past that 2 years, which would be very out of date. All you would do is click the pull down for the report date and select the most current date. But yes, all your data from the last time you provided a price to this customer would be provided. If you've never provided a price to this customer, then the first time you provide a price, you have to re-enter all the complexity the first time for that customer all over again. And you say, well, Mark, why don't you just copy the complexity from another customer into this customer? Because oddly enough, people change their cost by customer. They have different costs for different customers. There's just nothing standardized on fuel pricing. It even changes in some cases for each FBO from one customer to the next. That said, let me add one more comment to this screen. This is the only module of CSI where we actually have currency involved, where the actual currency values, the price promised to a customer is coming from CSI. That is a bit scary for me personally. That means it all has to work perfectly. You have to know that whatever you entered here is going to be reported to the customer properly, all of the above. The way I've done that is every piece of that step has been automated, and that automation has worked so well over the last 10 years that just 3 months ago did I have my first mistake. About 3 months ago, I reported a wrong price. Because of my automation, I had a glitch in my internet connectivity and it didn't work right. And I'm like, oops, and it was only to one customer for one FBO in 10 years. That being said, what I'm trying to tell you is that's the level of commitment and the level of attention that I give to this module. But I have seen where in many, many cases, a location will hire a new fuel accountant of some type, and then this person's been with the company for less than a week or less than 2 weeks, and they give this brand new person the interlink fuel price reporting responsibilities, and we have not mistakes of CSI, but lack of training in that position, and we have pricing, what I would call pricing errors not related to CSI because of a lack of training and passing responsibilities on without being trained. You truly got to maintain a CSI champion or somebody involved in your processes that has the ability to provide consistent pricing week to week, regardless of employee turnover. Okay, so it's finally time to go to the next tab of the fuel pricing module. So you can see that tab is named Interlink Shared Pricing. There are 3 prices that are provided on this screen. You can see in the list that Millionaire Houston has been participating in this part of the pricing module for a very long time. The intent of this part of the program is for each location to provide a price to the other locations for their base tenants, and to also provide a price for the charter operators that are owned by millionaire franchisees. And also another price to give to the front desk to help get first-time visitors to go to your FBO. I would basically call this an introductory price. Okay, so by now we know the routine. I right mouse clicked on that top record in that list and selected edit. And when I did, the Interlink fuel pricing edit screen showed up. And so now you're seeing where you enter these 3 prices. You select the week, you enter the prices, you click save, and you've now provided internal pricing for those 3 types of customers throughout all of Millionaire for those that are utilizing CSI. Okay, so here's what I've done. At the top of the screen, you see the red square around the old Millionaire icon from our past. When you click that icon, it opens the Millionaire Interlink Shared Pricing screen. What's required is a record you see on the pricing data to the left in that list that Houston has provided an Interlink Shared Pricing value for the week of 12th of July 2022. The icon knows that, and so since there is a record, since they are sharing their pricing with other locations, this screen is displayed. Included in the screen shows all of the pricing that was entered in the fuel pricing module for all of the operators. Now, granted, you have the right in many locations, including Houston. They do this fuel pricing in TFBO. They do it on an Excel spreadsheet. They do it in CSI. They send an email themselves. They let CSI send the email. And I can just go on and on about all of the pains that people are going through to send pricing to these different customers. I also know that they have automation set up with their fuel suppliers. They have these fuel price categories, and they're trusting their fuel suppliers to send pricing for them. Fuel pricing is just all over the map. It's just everywhere. I don't know. Everybody wants to be the source of the information. You get to decide where that source is going to be, or if you're going to provide that same information in as many people that request it from you as possible. I'm an old IT guy. I'm like, data stored in more than one place. No two places are correct because you've entered it so many times. The potential for typing it wrong. I mean, I can just go off on a rant. But the idea is you have a tool. It's being reported to your customers. It's right here. It's been going on for 10 years now. And you're so welcome to utilize this tool at your FBO and become part of this program. Okay, so that's all for day number 13. We'll meet again on day 14.